Methodology of teaching the subject. Next topic is methods and strategies of teaching the subject, models of teaching, techniques of individualizing instruction. So some of the methods we have already discussed. In the module 8, teaching of English, it is a methods and approaches, grammar translation, audiolingual, direct method, source approach, communicative approach, bilingual method, humanistic approaches, etc. So you can go to my class there and read all those methods, but there are some more to be discussed. Methods and strategies of English of teaching the subject. After that we will discuss models of teaching, and all the techniques of these introducing instruction will come under these methods and models. Okay, so we are discussing the other methods. So first one is total physical response method. This method was developed by James Asher. He belongs to the school of humanist psychology. The method attempts to teach language through physical activity. The learners are made to associate language with actions. So much importance is given to listening comprehension. So in this method, the teacher gives commands and orders and the learners perform the action. So Asher made 3 hypotheses based on his observations. First, that language is learned primarily by listening. Second, language learning must engage the right hemisphere of the brain. And third, that learning language should not involve any stress. So Asher hypothesis that speech develops naturally and spontaneously after learners internalize the target language through input, and that it should not be forced. So the physical movement is controlled primarily by the right hemisphere, and Asher sees the coupling of movement with language comprehension as a key to language acquisition. And Asher's third hypothesis is that language learning should not involve any stress, as stress and negative emotions inhibit the natural language learning process. So he regards the stressful nature of most language teaching methods as one of the major weaknesses. So this total physical response is based on the coordination of speech and action, and the principles are that listening comprehension forms the base of language learning, and learners learn best by doing things, and meaning in target language is conveyed through actions. So the objectives of TPR method is that to teach oral proficiency at a beginning level, to develop comprehension skill, to teach the basic speaking skill, to reduce stress in classroom. So teacher has a good role in this. She provides opportunities for learning so that the learner can internalize the basic rules of target language. And here teacher acts as a parent. So the teacher should also keep away from too much correction in the early stages and should not interrupt to correct errors. So here the procedure is that teacher gives simple commands and the learners have to follow it. If they don't follow, the teacher has to demonstrate. Then the class has to follow. Then teacher can write commands on the blackboard and demonstrate. Again, the class will copy it down. The learners are not required to speak in the initial stage. Later, learners give commands and the rest of the class performs the actions. So the advantages are it develops listening competence. Learners like it because it is not very demanding. It helps to reduce the stress. It is very memorable. It helps students to remember phrases or words. because only simple commands are given. And it is good for kinesthetic learners who love a lot of movements, who always are active in the class. And it can be used in large or small classes. So it works well with mixed ability classes. Physical actions get across the meaning effectively so that all the students are able to understand and use the target language. It is very effective with teenagers and young learners. So the syllabus consists of meaningful sentences. Grammar is taught inductively. Grammar features and vocabulary items are selected according to the situations in the classroom. And it does not require any a lot of preparation or materials. Then the disadvantages is that students who are not used to such things will find it boring. If the teacher is prepared to perform the action, students feel happier about copying. So this pleasure is reserved for the teacher. So it is only suitable for beginners level. A teacher can't teach everything with it, and if used a lot, it would become repetitive and monotonous. Okay, that's all about total physical response. And the next is community language learning, that is, it is also known as counseling language learning. So it was developed by Charles Curran and his associates. So community language learning represents the use of counseling learning theory to teach languages. Here the teachers act as counselors and in charge of overcoming the negative feelings that learners as clients experience towards learning a new language. So therefore the teacher is not only the one transmitting the knowledge, but also an expert who can handle the problems learners face while learning something new. So there is a mutual understanding between the learner and the teacher. So the principle is that there is a mutual relationship between the learner and the teacher for in order to create a very suitable, safe learning environment. And the students tend to learn more effectively when they feel safe and secure. The language is for communication. So the students should be encouraged to communicate as frequently as possible. And its base is Krushen's monitor theory, the affective filter hypothesis. That is, the human mind is active and opposed to, the human mind will only be active when it is stress-free. Then only it will receive any new information or ideas. Okay, then the teacher stands behind the students in order to facilitate the learning process. The teacher should respect the learner's level of confidence and transmit them what needs to be done to be successful. So the learners need to know about the limits of a teaching activity also. So both the teachers and learners can share their experiences. They should get to know one another, and it's like a community. And teacher should realize that each learner is unique. They have their own ideas, values, learning habits. So the teacher as a counselor should listen to them without giving any advice. There is no need for giving any advice, but should feel about about them, how they learn, what they think about the language, etc. So a learner as a client uses his native language to make the meaning clear and to build a bridge from the known to the unknown. So students works in groups to feel a sense of community, thus they can learn from each another as well as from the teacher also. So cooperation is the main thing, and the teacher should correct the errors that learners have produced in a non-threatening way. So the class is stress-free, non-independent, value-respecting, and there is it is no place for a formal evaluation or a written or oral exam. The thing is that the learners and the teacher, they just encourage one another and evaluate themselves. So it's all about mutual cooperation and assistance. The teacher will, be like a parent, very supportive, and will monitor the learner's progress, and the students also, they will listen to the teacher. Then after that, they can also become counselors to other learners. So the advantage is that this method works with lower level students who are struggling in spoken English, and it lowers anxiety and overcome threatening, affective filter. It creates a warm, sympathetic and trusting relationship too. And counselors allow the learners to determine the type of conversation. So authentic materials can be used and the students can be trained independently. So some of the disadvantages is that some learners will find it difficult to speak on tape, to record their voice because of shyness or lack of confidence. So in order for students to become independent, teacher might neglect the need for guidance. So the teacher has to be highly proficient in the target language and also in the language of the students. We all know that translation is a very difficult task, so the success of this method relies upon the counselor's translation and the proficiency in languages. And it is also very time consuming method. The learners have to work together and develop a possible relationship, and the teacher here acts as a counselor and paraphraser. The learners act as a collaborator. So learning initiative must be there with the students. So that's about community language learning. And coming to the task-based language learning. So as the name indicates, it is also known as task-based instruction. The focus is on the use of the authentic language and asking students to do meaningful tasks using that target language itself. Like a situation will be created, like visiting a doctor, conducting an interview, or calling a customer service for help, like that. So a problem will be given and the students must solve that problem by doing those activities. So it will develop the fluency and the confidence in them. So the task-based language learning was popularized by N. Prabhu, and there are also many other exponents in this area, that is Theresa P. Pica and Michael Long. There are many SVs, Willis J., Joseph Foley, Gat Boughton, Zanon, etc. So here the characteristics is that students are encouraged to use language creatively and spontaneously through task and problem solving. Students focus on a relationship that is comparable to real world activities. So all these tasks, they can use it in the future also. The conveyance of some sort of meaning is central to this method, and it is student centered. The core concept is task, an activity in which the learner should use a target language for communicative purpose in order to achieve an outcome. So there will be 3 phases will be there: pre-task, task cycle, post-task, and during the pre-task phase, the teacher should introduce and the situation and create interest in doing that task on a topic, on any topic. Then to activate topic related words, phrases and target sentences that will be useful to carry out the task, they can be discussed. Then optional function is the inclusion of an enabling task to help students communicate as smoothly as possible during the task cycle. So the task cycle consists of task plus planning and report phases in which students present spoken or written reports of the work done in the task. And during the task phase, the students work in pairs or groups and whatever linguistic resources they possess to achieve the goal of the task. So the teacher can expose students to language. The teacher can give demos. They can listen to a recording of other people doing the same task, and maybe some reading materials can also be given. And in the final phase in the framework, the language focus provides an opportunity for form focused work. So here, from the task, they move on to that that accuracy level. They should learn from what they do from the task. So the students should be active, they should participate with great motivation, they should display their skills and work and cooperate with each members in their group. The demerits is that there is no acquisition of new grammar or vocabulary features, because before during the pre-phase they will discuss some of the words, phrases and target sentences suitable for that activity or task, and it will be during the task phase they will just do it, that's it. So everything is left to the teacher. The teacher will discuss and demonstrate all the things, and the learners have to do it. And also not all the learners will be motivated by this method. Some students need more language forms or other element of accuracy. So students typically translate and use a lot of their native language itself if they are not comfortable with the target language. So conversation is a central focus here, and some comprehensible input should be given by the teacher for that naturalistic and meaningful communication. So there are, a task has some kind of gap, and there are three main categories of gap. Information gap, that is transformation of given information from one person to another, or to one form to another, one place to another. So there will be a decoding and encoding of information from one person to person, or from one language to another. Actually, target language is used there. So the students should think of the appropriate or suitable words. Then there is a reasoning gap. It involves deriving some new information from given information through process of inference, deduction, practical reasoning, or a perception of relationships or patterns. Then there is opinion gap. It involves identifying and articulating personal preference, feeling or attitude in response to a given situation. Okay, this is my handwriting. Hope it is okay for you. So rest of the methods were discussed on my classes on methods and approaches. So you can go there and check it out and learn. So the next one is models of teaching. So we have different types of models, that is advanced organizer model of teaching, then concept attainment model, then we have this direct instruction model is there, then a role play model. So these all are my notes from my B.Ed classes. Okay, hope you are satisfied with this kind of a new way of class. Okay.